Muito obrigada a ambos. Prosseguimos então com esta nossa conferência e já entrando numa reta final dos trabalhos para esta tarde. Resta-me agora fazer já a apresentação e procurando mais uma vez ser bem sucedida na partilha de ecrã, que é sempre uma tarefa que nos prende, nos tem prendido ao longo do dia. Agora sim, acredito que estão a conseguir visualizar. Fazendo então a apresentação do António Bento, ele que vai fazer a moderação do próximo painel. Tem múltiplas certificações, multiple certifications, is a consultant, trainer, auditor, strategy, change management and transformation, business models and process re-engineering, DPO as a service, registered on CNPD, IT service management, information security, privacy and data protection, business continuity, mentor in entrepreneurship and innovation programs. É uma biografia também, uma biografia curta, mas também em inglês, para que possamos, de certa forma, integrar os nossos próximos oradores que vão fazer parte deste painel de debate e também todos aqueles que nos acompanham. Pela minha parte, vamos entrando então também numa fase final deste dia intenso de trabalhos que começou bem cedo e que vamos também procurar partilhar com todos mais à frente, quer num resumo, quer também com momentos vividos ao longo deste nosso dia. Vamos então começar com a moderação e deste lado eu vou fazendo então também a partilha de ecrã com as curtas biografias de cada um dos próximos intervenientes. Pela minha parte, tem sido um gosto. Muito obrigada pela proposta e pela oportunidade de acompanhar este dia de trabalhos.
Okay, thank you. Allow me for a big obrigado to Daniela. Obrigado, Daniela, por esta apresentação. Thank you all for being with us in this final hour of our conference. It has been a very intense day, a very pleasant day. First of all, I think Mario will hand after our roundtable, but I believe we need to thank everybody that has participated, that has assisted during the day. We have had a huge average audience all over the sessions, and it has been very pleasant to allow to that participation and sharing. Thanks, Luis and Danielle, for providing and guided us until here. And thanks for all the participants, Ramses, Martin, Felipe, and Nuno, for being here with us. I will, in a moment, present briefly each one of you, and then we will start our final journey before Mario close up. Ramses Gallego. Ramses is a very experienced executive. He has a background in management, in law. He has a huge expertise in security, technology, risk management, and we will take advantage of that in our roundtable. I have here some topics to launch and to take Ramses to learn and to share with us his practice along the way. He holds several international, both national in Spain and international positions in, for example, ISACA chapter, in international organizations, and he has a very strong experience in security, technology, business. So thank you, Ramses, for being with us.
It's a pleasure. Thank you for inviting me.
It's a pleasure, and it will be very enriching for having you here. Martin Vitus, a 30-year-old experienced professional, now acting as an independent professional, and after 30 years with this smile. So thank you, Martin, for being here with us also. Martin has expertise both in IT and business alignment. Of course, he has provided projects, large, complex projects with scopes concerning and aligning several aspects of product, service development, product management, DevOps, etc., agile approaches, agile methodologies. So I think, Martin, I wouldn't lie if I would say that we have here an integrator. You are purely an integrator, and we will speak in a moment about those integration skills and how important they are nowadays on this hybrid and mixed world we are in translation between the old practices, the new practices, or we don't know yet what practices we are in. So thank you very much for being with us also. We also have Filipe Barata Pereira. Filipe is the head of digital lead and protection at LCG, a consultant firm. He holds a background in marketing, communication, but along the way, Filipe came to IT, to the borders between marketing, communication, IT, management, some program management, etc. He's an expert in data privacy, data protection, and info security. He holds some other positions and very diverse positions in InnovLegal, in the Chamber of Commerce between Netherlands and Portugal, and is the vice president of a non-governmental organization which is called Humanity of Things Agency. Thank you, Filipe, for being here, and we'll have the opportunity not only to speak today, but in 3 weeks we'll be again here in another event that will be promoted in the final slides. Finally, last but not the least, of course, Nuno Rodrigues. Thank you very much, Nuno, for being with us. Nuno has a background in information systems. He holds a master in management, and he didn't stop, so he keeps moving and doing his PhD studies in management studies. Nuno is an experienced IT service manager in Ascendi. We'll have the opportunity to share, of course, some of the insights. He was previously a project manager, operations manager, and a service support teams manager. So thank you very much, Nuno. A particular specific pleasure to have you here, since we are collaborating on a project, and it's another view of our sharing, but thank you very much.
Thank you for the invitation.
Okay, that's always a pleasure. Without further delay, we will have maybe 3 or 4 rounds of questions for all of you, and the final round where I will try to customize a little and pick some specificities of your intervention and of your practice. And I would ask Ramses to kick off here with us. For the first question, it's a general one, of course. Is it possible, from your experience, for us to talk already in new practices in this mixed digital mess up, in this hybrid context, in these challenges we are facing? Is it possible to talk already about these new practices, or are we trying to adapt? Are we trying to know what's going on, and we didn't have the time yet to structure the approaches? We are calling it the new normal, but we are trying almost to survive around here. Thank you, Ramses.
Well, thank you again. It's a pleasure to be invited with you. I will try to be short. You know that I can talk for days non-stop, but I want to hear the rest of my colleagues. So I will try to squeeze a very interesting question, Antonio, and I truly appreciate it, because I think that within the question it was the answer. Yes, we are trying to adapt. Yes, of course. But actually, we call it the new normal. Well, I think that we need to be ready as societies of the world, as communities on the planet. We need to be ready not to the new normal, but to the next normal. Something else will happen. I mean, of course, COVID-19 has been, or it is being still, a tragedy. Yes, to all of that. But something else will happen. So I think it's imperative, it is mandated that, yes, we try to get these best practices and frameworks and new ideas and the things that you guys at ITSMF Portugal, and when I was at the board of directors at the ITSMF Spain, and I mean, of course, we try to reinvent new things. But the second part of your question was even more instrumental, while adapting and adopting the new realities. When I was invited to this event, and again, I'm truly honored and blessed with the opportunity, a sentence came to my mind, which is the contrary of governance that, everybody in this room knows about, is not anarchy or chaos. No. The contrary of governance is complacency, ladies and gentlemen. Is complacency. It's not embracing this next or new normal. It's not embracing, adapting, and adopting. As you were introducing me, yes, my line of business is cybersecurity, and in the very same way as Felipe, I know something about privacy and data protection, etc. But that's a new reality, isn't it? You know what? I'm sitting here in Barcelona, Spain, and I have been sitting in this very same chair for the past 15 months. I mean, more or less like everybody else in this room. Maybe you can go back to the office. Lucky you, by the way. But I'm sitting in the very same chair and doing everything in this next normal. So again, I have other things to say, but I would like to hear the rest of my colleagues. But yes to both parts of your question, Antonio. Yes, we must adapt while trying to reinvent and get the best of these best practices and compliance and assurance and governance and security and privacy and metrics and indicators, all that combined. And every professional in this room, everybody that is seeing this, well, it's being recorded, so maybe now online or when it's being recorded, guys, what I'm saying, and I'm looking straight into the camera when I'm saying this. There's no other option. There's no alternative, because again, anarchy or chaos, this will not work. And complacency will not work. Governance is the name of the game. Back to you, Antonio. I have other things to say, but I want to hear the rest of my colleagues. Back to you, my friend.
Yeah. Okay, thank you very much for this kick in the ball, Ramses. Very powerful one. Martin, I would call you to help us understand in your integration roles and within the projects you are facilitating and managing and mentoring also, because you are a mentor. What do you think about how do organizations, how do users, clients, how do society is facing the need for reinvent, but still in this frontier between the old and the not yet new practices? Please give us a help now.
Okay, so first of all, thank you for invitation for this discussion. It's a pleasure to be here. Regarding to your question, I can see in my projects, I can see when I discuss with my customers and clients that there is a complete variety of situations, because you can see that there are companies who really live in the past and they even didn't accommodate, let's say, old practices like ITIL version 3 and stuff like that, and it's still new for them. You can see companies who are trying to deal with this situation, and how Ramses said, they is trying to move from chaos to organized way of working. And I can see companies that they are even in the future new. They are even behind that. They were ready for this situation. Okay, nobody expected COVID, definitely not, nobody. But they were ready. They were ready for this situation, and they were prepared. And now they, maybe it's not so nice to say, but they really use the opportunity to speed up, because this situation is more or less accelerator for them to be even better than they were before that. And they see that in this way. They are not trying to survive, they are trying to use it as opportunity and be better. That's one point. The second point is that you mentioned, let's say, old practices and new practices. Personally, I don't like so much this differentiation because even when you look at ITIL version 3 or even ITIL version 2 or old COBIT or stuff like that, then you see a lot of useful stuff that can really help companies nowadays. What is new is not practice, but it's a way of thinking about that, way of approaching that. You know, anti-fragile organization, infinitive game, and stuff like that. And yeah, you just use what's available, but you have to think about that. Now, for example, in ITIL version 4, we talk about lean practices. For IT guys, it's completely new. But we could meet with lean practices 20 years ago. It's definitely not new practice. And we just discovered that. And in many cases, we try to teach business as IT organization. We try to teach business to be progressive, to be digital, and so on. And suddenly, we can come to shop floor, to production, to the factories, and we learn from them how to organize IT, how to manage our flows, how to manage our processes, our value stream, because they have just 30, 40 years experience in this area. And we can really learn from them. So for me, it's not old or new practice. For me, it means that use what's available, but think about that in the new context.
Okay. Thank you very much, Martin. I like that initial statement very much because it's almost we try to it's a lot of like Descartes and the Cartesian graphics. We always try to put things between 0 and 1, between black and white, and they are not. This is almost like science because the only way that we have vaccines now, 1 year after, is because science is a cumulative process. So it's not, science is never old because we only are where we are now because it's a past supporting us. So thank you very much. I will return to you in the final question with this analogy that you have made. New approaches. We are talking about approaches, not old or new practices. That's very, very interesting for starting. And I would pass the ball to Philippe. Again, Philippe, thank you very much for being with us. What's your feeling on the state we are in, on the state of the art, since you are connecting with clients and with partners, etc., in an industry that during the past year had a very intense daily operations because, of course, privacy, cybersec, infosec, etc., are on the top of the game. So please help us to launch it. Thank you.
Of course. First of all, thank you for the invitation, and hello to my fellow partners of the roundtable. Well, what I will start with one first thought that takes a little bit from what Ramses mentioned and what Martin mentioned. We do need some order because chaos and whatever other word used, it was, I don't recall the other word that Ramses used to refer inaction, basically. So that's not a solution. That doesn't drive us towards solutions. And what Martin mentioned, which is the mindset, the approaches, the mindset that makes us look at things that are not new, is actually kind of the challenge that we have anytime that we face something new and we tend and we are forced to think about innovation. But innovation doesn't have to be breaking things. It doesn't have to be creating things from scratch. It can absolutely be improve things that we currently have and transform the things that we currently have. Occasionally, we need to break it, because whatever we have, although we try to improve it and transform it, it doesn't work. It doesn't give us the solution that we need. And therefore, we need to risk a little bit further and go a little bit beyond what we know and try it on and possibly break a couple of things and create in between lots of new things. Now, going to your question, what I think is that people were faced, the pandemics was kind of one slap in the face of the majority of the people, because current operations were no longer valid. I'll give you an example. Lots and lots and lots of companies were very resistant to the fact of having people working from home. Occasionally they allowed it, but they were very against it because of the lack of control, because of the lack of perceived productivity, etc. They were forced to adopt different measures. They were forced to adapt the infrastructures in order to provide the services, and IT, service management, was never as important as it is now, because all of a sudden there was, besides of all of the burden that was already in the systems, on the systems, you were faced with the fact that you could not stop operations. If you go to a little bit out of the realm of infrastructures and IT, if you look at contracts, and Nuno is also contract manager, if I'm not mistaken, you had to look into the baseline of contracts and pretty much overlook most of the SLAs that were part of the contracts, because within pandemics, the majority of companies would not be able to deliver as strictly put on the contract. So you had to be tolerant, and you had to change a lot of the limits of the contracts and a lot of the limits of the infrastructure itself. So going back to your point, just to finalize this first intervention, people were faced with something that they're not expecting, and that's how people grow. That's how companies grow. And there's a level of maturity that is increased with the fact of overcoming a challenge. Some of the companies are going still through a lot of difficulties because they were not able to mature within the process, to adapt their current processes to ensure the integration of systems and standards, different standards that they have alongside their company, existing in parallel, but not necessarily communicating. And only those that are able to integrate those fully can make can learn the proper lessons from it and adapt in people and processes. That's pretty much what I see, is that, first of all, there was a level of fear, a little bit of panic. As Martin put it, those that were already thinking ahead are taking the opportunity of it, because probably their administrations, their C-level was not on the same boat, but they all of a sudden saw themselves like lacking of solutions, and the conservative approach that they had was not enough to deliver or to answer the challenges. So they had to give a little bit of leadway to the second lines that wanted to implement some of the changes within the structure. And those changes are now part of the new norm. So this kind of mindset is taking its time, but it's sinking in. When it comes to privacy, that's pretty much the same thing. Privacy came for, I would say, 95% of people as an add-on. Privacy by design is something that people like to talk about it as a buzzword, but security by design precedes privacy by design for a long time. And security by design already has the basis of privacy by design. The only difference is they didn't think the system, the IT as discussed in terms of security by design, doesn't consider the human rights or the privacy as something inept. So that's that additional layer that is now in the midst of things, and forces us, everyone involved, to have a different look into it. The last bit would be this will actually, we will be able to get to a proper level of maturity if we ensure that organizations have and are able to implement literacy. to their own literacy, as in not only digital literacy, privacy literacy, legal literacy, health literacy. The pandemics is kind of a shambles when we talk about literacy, because people don't know how to understand science and don't know how to understand health numbers. That's why we are still discussing RT, or as if it was a definition of something when it has to be analyzed alongside other numbers. So it's pretty much, I've went a little bit sideways, but just focusing and briefly going to the point, I think the level of maturity is improving, is increasing. Nonetheless, there's a lot to go.
Okay, thank you very much, Philippe. We are almost going through this first round with Nuno. I would point out when you mentioned mindset, the innovation, there are always two sides of the coin: exploration and exploitation. And I think you touched the point, and I was laughing to myself because you mentioned here literacy, and we didn't arrange it. But in a while, I will launch some question or some topic regarding knowledge management awareness. And I had here put it in written literacy and awareness. So we didn't arrange that, but that's a point I will return to. Nuno, for closing this first round, how was your teams and your organizations and your ecosystems here, since you have to deal with lots of users, with lots of SLAs, with lots of partners? You have a very intense ecosystem on your daily operations. So what practices did you change? What practices are you changing? And what are the ones that you are, for example, maintaining? So how are you mixing these practices and these approaches?
Antonio, thank you very much for the question and for the invitation. I'm happy to be here, and warm welcome to my colleagues. Regarding your question, I have to tell you that in our daily basis, we maintain, and Philippe said, my main action is on contract management, and we have different scopes, different SLAs, dozens of suppliers that we need to manage. And I think, and I believe that the companies are moving in the right direction. In my case, we are just starting the implementation of new processes based on the ITIL standard, of course, but we are changing the way of doing things from the scratch. Okay, we are in greenfield, and you can ask me, but it's easier to be on greenfield and implementing new processes when you have nothing. It's not true, because you have a lot of years of implemented procedures, not processes on the companies, and it's very difficult when we have the lack of what Philippe said, literacy. Okay, when people don't know, or are not willing to know more about something, about the standard, about the process, what is the difference between a process and a procedure, it's difficult to explain them what is the advantage to implement, imagine 8 ITIL processes, the basic ones. To do like incident management or problem management, the basic ones, and explain to them, listen, this is the best way. We need a tool, a set of rules and processes to manage our suppliers, our SLAs, our contracts. We need to measure, we have metrics. It's complicated when the people and our colleagues that in other words, take the decision, they lack the literacy of this topic, okay? But I think it's in our hands to show them and make some effort to explain to them in the most basic way what we are talking about when we say this is the new normal, this is the way forward, this is a requirement for every companies around the world when we are talking about service management. We need to comply with this. We cannot have a company that have a number of services that are only supported in procedures that are old and do not answer what we need in terms of service management. And it's in our hands to explain to them what we can get, and we need to show them what we already have in the pressing challenges that we have on the ETSM, the design decisions based on assumptions, for instance, the lack of collaboration between teams. This is all questions and challenges that it's in our hands. And in my daily operations, I try to give some, not to give, but to implement or to pressure some people to get some more literacy, okay, to read more, to make online training, to attend conferences, to understand what are the experience that Philippe mentioned, Ramsey mentioned, Martin mentioned. It's important for us to share and move forward, and to understand that ETSM and digital transformation and all this chaos is connected. We cannot have digital transformation without a solid ground of processes of the ETSM. It doesn't work. Okay, we cannot say in the company, okay, let's innovate and digitalize everything. It doesn't work if you don't have the processes, the basic ones, completely known, and the literacy inside the company. This is my opinion.
Okay, Nuno, thank you so much for this contribution on the first round. I found it very interesting, your differentiation between procedures and processes, because clearly we have here the gap and the jump between task orientation and value orientation. We are moving through value orientation, and processes assume that importance more and more. I have received here a request for change from myself to myself, okay? And I will launch the customized question right now. So I will not wait for the end, because I think we pick some interesting topics that we can explore. I would remember our audience that you can put, after this first round, you are a little more aware of these experts we have here, of the topics they address. So you can put your questions on the forum. We would be delighted to address them. And I would return to Ramses with a customized question about risk management and compliance. During this year, we have heard a lot about startups, about innovative ecosystems, about small and medium enterprises that jumped to the front line to help, mainly in the health ecosystem, etc. What's your point of view? Is it risk management still a sort of an ideal practices and process that everyone should have, or we are now assisting at the real deliver in risk management, starting with the big firms and continuing in small and medium enterprises that, for example, in Europe, are the largest part of the ecosystems. How are we concerning risk management 1 year after?
Oh, thanks again. And again, I can talk for hours on this same question. So again, I will try to squeeze it, and I will squeeze it with 2 or 3 layers basically of answer. And again, I would like to hear the other question for my colleagues and my fellow speakers. But you know, you mentioned ecosystems, okay? Let me play a little bit with the dictionary, Antonio, if I may. I mean, you actually asked also Nuno about ecosystem, you know, and I was taking my notes, I was learning, and this is the goal of this sort of events. But ecosystem, to my eyes, allows us to do 2 things. And again, I'm playing with the dictionary here. To be systematic, meaning to be orchestrated, to bring automation in place, systematic, because it's an ecosystem, and also to be systemic. Let me repeat, an ecosystem allows us to be systematic and also systemic. And systemic, the dictionary says that it belongs to a greater good. It belongs to again, a universe or an ecosystem, right? So your question is about risk management. I'm thinking about ecosystem. I mean, we live in a very challenging epoch, very difficult times. Again, the tragedy of COVID-19, remote working, and all of those things that, again, that next normal that I was mentioning before. So risk management is not a nice to have. It's a must have, especially in a context-aware situation. I mean, again, I'm sitting here in Barcelona. Martin is sitting in space. I can see the Tesla Roadster in his background. So he's in, so meaning context-aware. And I mean it. I know I'm joking because it's late of the day, but I'm serious at the very same time. You know, context-aware and risk management, by the way, there's a whole discipline on that, Antonio, and the rest of the dear audience, meaning the acronym for that is ERM, Enterprise Risk Management. And Enterprise Risk Management has a lot of very different sub-disciplines, meaning credit risk, fraud risk, environmental risk, public image risk. I don't have time in this answer, but I would be more than happy to open the door to reputation management. Reputation management is how you are being perceived, not how you think you are, but how the others think about you, which I think is super instrumental, and very few, I would say very few disciplines or conversations people have on how I am being perceived. You own intellectual property. And again, Felipe is an expert on that, on privacy, etc. But while you own intellectual property, you do not own reputation. Reputation is being owned, quote unquote, by the others, because the others see you in some specific way. And I mean it as professional, as individual, and of course, governments of the world and organizations of the world. So in short, risk management is imperative. Risk management in a wider fashion. I mean, of course, IT risk management, this is my line of work. I mean, digital risk and you know, privacy risk, and But remember, that has an implication on an overarching umbrella, which is called ERM, Enterprise Risk Management. So to your question, and I'm bringing ecosystems into that, absolutely, is a must. And asking the right questions, I'm finishing with this, asking the right questions to the right people at the right time is a no-brainer. Having the power, the authority, the ability, the gift of asking the right questions to the right people at the right time. That's at the core of risk management. Back to you, Antonio. Thanks for the question.
Thank you, Ramses. Very, very interesting, because we are living and assisting on I would say daily, not daily, on an hour basis to the need of this risk management. For example, the vaccines provider, they are facing reputation issues nowadays, and we are dealing with a very scarce resource. So that's on the point, on the spot. I would change and disrupt the order, if you allow me. And Nuno, please help us now to understand, and that's a question for an ITSM experienced manager from the point of view of ITSM delivery, and from the point of view of the teams and the project management. What are the challenges? What are the challenges now that we have had a disruption here? What are the challenges to continue addressing and delivering value? What are the main challenges that your team and the ITSM team and processes are facing to keep moving and adding value to customers, partners, to stakeholders?
Thank you very much for your question, Antonio. I think the great challenge that I have, and I have to speak from my own experience right now, we are in the time where the companies want to do everything. Okay, innovate, digital transformation, ITSM implementation, more standards, risk management, and when you are trying to merge all these projects in one big project, it doesn't work. Okay, what I think it's the most important challenge is to try to isolate what is the ITSM processes, what they do, what are the value they can bring to the company. Okay, we need to implement them as not as quickly as possible, because when you try to do it quickly, basically you are going to end up not doing it correctly. So you need to take your time. especially in our experience, in my experience, when we are so behind in terms of implementation of process, the challenge is to go step by step, slowly. But I know that right now, the companies need to do more, okay? I know that we need to do digital transformation at the same time. And as Ramses said, the risk management is one thing that the ITSM process can help, okay? We can help managing that risk. We can help managing the financial risk with the processes, but we need to implement those processes. And the most to conclude the challenge is to transmit the idea to the company that, listen, we need to have these processes as a backbone, as a base to sustain all the other projects that we nowadays have to face with the COVID. We need to move quickly in terms of having people working at home, with the processes that need to cover people answering SLAs remotely. I know that, but we need to pass the message. If we don't do this year, we do next year, okay? I know that in terms of bringing value to the company, this is a risk, but I think we have a greater risk if we move forward without having the strong base as the processes that are managing all the risks that, one of the risks that Ramsey just said. And this is the challenge. And I don't think that the companies are willing to wait, okay? This is not the time, I understand this, it is not the time to wait and to stop and think and let the processes grow and see the value. We need to move faster, but unfortunately it doesn't work. My experience says to me that it doesn't work when you're trying to do a lot of things at the same time. And this is going towards the beginning of the conversation with the digital transformation, the innovation, and the ITSM as a chaos and everything together at the same time. This is my reality nowadays. Okay. We have the three projects at the same time, and it's not working. Okay. It is working, but not as good as we could hope.
Okay. Thank you very much, Nuno. I pick two strong ideas. We don't need only, and we don't have only muscle. We need to have the bones on the right place, because muscle is important, but we need the bones. And picking Martin's initial sentence, we will pick an approach that is a classic one. Let's cut the elephant by pieces. That's always a classic, but that's an important one, to not get lost in the middle and in translation. So I would now, thank you, Nuno. I would now ask Philippe, and would end with our integrator. Okay, Martin, this round, but Philippe, we are talking here about compliance, service level management, regarding privacy, data protection, InfoSec, etc. We have assisted, and I believe this year was the final episode on that, and it's still remaining, and we will move on. We have assisted to the use of social platforms as a tool for working on a daily basis between the teams in an organization. For example, everybody now communicates, for example, personal data or even sensitive data through social platforms as a tool. So what is the role of the organizations to not only maintain compliance, but to mitigate risk, because it's getting harder on this hybrid way of working to manage, to control, and to look at the dashboard and to see, okay, we are good. I don't know if we are good, because there's a gray area that is larger and larger, and the user as the force and the user as the power more and more. So help us understand this sure. Side of the coin. Thank
sure,
you.
That's not at all. That's a very good question, and that goes down to people working together. One of the things that Nuno just briefly mentioned at the end is it's for ITSM. It's increasingly well, it's a challenge, a bigger challenge to make some order and some processes and be able to assist the level of innovation that some companies want to implement. And why? Because innovation comes from comes from the outside. Someone that looks into the business doesn't understand the core and the basic infrastructure, what exists right now, and points out where we want to be. And then the company says, okay, then we definitely need to go to that level without understanding if there is ability and capacity to reach to that level. And that's why you install chaos, because everyone has to go around as an hamster, going around in a circle, trying to do their best, doing everything at the same time to maintain operations, and at the same time reach that level of innovation that you want to achieve. And that's where things start to go wrong. The only way for this to actually be properly done is to have a level of integration, and I'll leave it to Martin in a bit. A level of integration within not only the teams and the expertise, but also the people. One of the things within the company, you have the CIO and the Chief Information Security Officer, and some of the companies already have a data protection officer. And then in some of the larger companies, you have the Chief Data Officer. Is hand in hand. Do they work together? Or are they kind of reigning and ruling their own activities? Of course, they have levels of interaction. They have projects that they work on, but they are not part of the base discussion of what needs to be implemented. If you don't have that, and if you are not able to achieve a level of integration and collaboration between those areas, you will always have a very it will be very difficult to reach to the level of outcome that you want. I'll give an example. Incident management. Pretty much every single organization that has systems already have incident management. Now, is part of the incident management to assess when the data is going to the privacy, when the data relates to individuals, and what is the impact alongside the risk, where is the impact to that individual. Is that part of the process already, or that needs to be revisited? As part of the program of data protection, you need to revise the incident management process. Now, that is obvious for some of the processes that are already in place, but pretty much the whole system should be revised to ensure that privacy is at the core. That's why you mentioned privacy by default and privacy by design. It's not to change everything that is being done, but just to ensure that, going straight to the point that you were making, privacy is within operations, within business operations, within commercial operations, within service operations. So that needs to change. Not necessarily, it's not a new system, a new requirement that we need to tick the box and say, okay, now we are compliant. We definitely need to understand that privacy and data protection is part of what we as individuals are. Briefly mentioning on the other bit of the question that you've made, the social as part of the tools. Now, InfoSec, so you already have by basis the need to manage devices. As part of a good security policy, you should have a good way to approach what kind of devices, what kind of software you could use, what kind of information should be used. You should have information classification policies and processes in place and be able to audit those. Now, you cannot do everything at the same time, but the major risk comes not, and correct me if I'm wrong, you are more knowledgeable than I am when it comes to IT management services. The main risk doesn't come from software or hardware, comes from people, comes from behavior, comes from what they do on or they allow to be done when using systems. And now, going back to the main point, literacy, training, awareness is the baseline. Social is just part of it. We didn't have social 20 years ago. we have social nowadays, it won't go away. And the way to go about it is not to prohibit it, is to set conventional rules in place that people understand and adhere, knowing that if they don't, they are putting themselves at risk. And they need to be responsible for the risks that they are putting themselves and others at. And that's pretty much it. This goes along, if we want to live in a society, in a proper order, a society, people need to assume their own responsibilities. You cannot just leave them hanging, laying around and saying, no, this is no one's responsible. No one's fault. It is, but it needs to be clearly explained from the beginning what is the responsible that actually lies on each one of us.
Okay, Philippe, thank you very much. I don't think it could have gone better, because you are facilitating and making it easy, my job, because you are linking by yourselves all the questions and all the topics that I would want to launch. So I think we will end this second round, and I will have a final and quick answer question for you on the beginning, and Mario Rui is waiting, and in 10 minutes he will start shouting at me to close up. But Martin, as an integrator, and Philippe pointed out, collaboration, and there's a risk here associated with people. Of course, the human side of the question, always the human side of the questions that belongs to the books several decades ago until now. How do you see you are managing and facilitating and mentoring product, service development, project management approaches, etc. How do you see the role of the human interaction design? We are facing a time where we will have more human-centric approaches or less human-centric approaches on the service management and on the service management design.
Okay, so first of all, I would like to say that I agree with all other people in this discussion. With Ramses, definitely risk management is a must. There is no discussion about that. Maybe we have to a little bit move the level of risk appetite of our organizations, because we lived somewhere else. Now we live in different time, and we have to challenge, or we have to deal with different situations. I have to agree with Philippe regarding to security, that it must be in the core. I have one friend, and he always says that security and privacy, it's not separate thing. It's not nothing additional. It's an integral part of each and every functionality of each and every system. It's always there. It must be always there. And I have to agree with Nuno regarding to so many projects we want to do, because maybe we have some kind of debt from the past, because we didn't do our homework, and now we have to clean our backyard because we want to do digital transformation and stuff like that. And of course it's difficult. And it's difficult because of people, because of human aspects. We cannot deal anymore just with the best practices, with the processes, with descriptions, with papers, diagrams, and stuff like that. We have to deal with people. And maybe I am coming back to what I said on the beginning, that we have existing practices, but we need different approach, human-centric approach. And I can show that on one simple example. I did a lot of, let's say, ITSM projects in the past, process implementation and so on. And let's say 10, 15 years ago, I could hear very simple requirement. Okay, ITIL is a standard. We want to implement ITIL. And we want to use it in the as standard as possible way. We just want to do copy paste from the book. We want to just use the tool without any, let's say, configuration, customization, and stuff like that, because it's a best practice. And later on, we will change whole organization according to that. It doesn't work. And nowadays, new approach is this human-centric. Yeah, we have people, we have human beings, they have their own habits, they have their own values, etc., etc. And we have to somehow use those practices to support them to do their jobs, to fulfill their, let's say, duties or stuff like that. And if you look at new versions of the practices we have COBIT 2019, we have ITIL version 4, we have Prince2 2017, we have Agile, we have DevOps. In each and every framework, you can find a section which is called principles, guiding principles. That's the way how you should approach that practice and how you should implement that. That's one point. And the second point is that in the past, and that's from my perspective, old way, in the past, I could see the project with very simple objective. Implement process X, Y, Z. Incident management, risk management, service level management, whatever. Implement ITIL, implement risk management, implement project management. And people just wanted to have that best practice, to have that process. But that's not the objective. All this stuff, all those processes, best practices, standards, and so on, they are just the tools. It's just the way how to achieve something. So if we want to succeed with our new projects, we have to completely change that. Our objective is not to do digital transformation. Our objective is not implement risk management, but improve something. Speed up user support, help our business, achieve some kind of values and stuff like that. And if you look at it from this perspective, then suddenly you can see all those best practices like toolbox. And you choose what you need at the same moment. So you don't have hundreds of projects like implement problem management, change management, incident management, but you have a project, speed up end user support. And you choose whatever you need. And security will be inside, and ITIL will be inside, and governance part will be inside, risk management will be inside, and all this stuff. So you just use everything what you have in your toolbox to help people to achieve their goals, or companies to achieve their goals. And that's what I say, it's this new approach. Not just copy paste what's in the book, because then you will always fail. But if you help people to achieve their objectives, they will be more than happy to support you, and they will be more than happy to use those processes, because they will know that it will help them.
Okay.
And that's from my perspective, human approach, human-centric approach. Don't implement best practices, help people to achieve their goals.
Well said, Martin. Well said.
Martin, thank you. Thank you very much. That's interesting, because during the day we have heard trust, and we have heard even the chief trust officer as a new role, a possible new role that is emerging. And my final question, we have 4 minutes, my final question, and we would appreciate very much and challenge you to do a little pitch of 30 seconds each one. My final question is, in these challenging and disruptive times, where we need new approaches and where we need to be human-centric, how can we get more trustful in our service management approaches? Just to have people on our side trusting our work and allowing us to show them that we are working for them, not for the processes or the procedures or the standards, etc. We are working for them. How can we get them to trust more our work and the value we are trying to approach? I would start with Martin now.
Okay, so be very short. I think that if you want to earn the trust from people, First, you just need you don't need just to talk to them, you have to listen to them. That's one point. You have to know what they want, what they need to be successful in their jobs, in their lives. That's one point. And the second point, you have to be honest. You have to be able to tell them what's possible, what's not possible, what can be done first, what can be done second, what's the short term, what's the long term. And then you have to be transparent. You should not do it behind their backs. And definitely, if you need on the end of the day save money, you should tell that on the beginning, and people will accept that. People will help you with that, and they will find the best way. But if you keep it as a secret, definitely it will be just worse.
Okay, thank you, Martin. Nuno, help us here with this one. How can we get more trusted, be more trusted?
Yes, I agree with everything that Martin said. I just want to add that we need to speak their language. When I say their language, we need to speak the business language. We cannot go to another unit of the organization speaking about ITSM standards, ITIL. They don't understand, okay? We need to try to adapt our vocabulary to their reality and show them the value that we are trying to give them, and to explain in short words two basic things: what we are going to do better and what is the value that we are going to bring with the solution, with the process. It doesn't matter. But we need to speak in a language that they understand. And I believe, and I see in my experience, that this does not happen often.
Thank you. Thank you, Nuno. Philippe.
I think nowadays people are very concerned with everything that is put in front of them. So you need, first of all, to set expectations. Expectations need to be clearly set. You need to work on the communication level to make sure that it's clear enough that everyone gets the same message. And then in Portuguese, we have a saying that I take it a little bit as a mantra for a long time now, which is something along the lines as, quem não confia não é de confiar. In English, it goes more or less like, those that don't trust others are not trustworthy. So you need to work with them. You need to hear them, as Martin and Nuno already said, and then you need to bring them on to the same side of the team. They are a team. We are a company. We are an organization. We are on the same side.
Okay, Philippe, thank you. And our friend Ramses, help us closing the best way with lots of class, please. Let's move on.
All right, you asked 30 seconds. I'm going to take like 40, but I'm going to combine something like Martin started with, then Nuno, and of course, Felipe mentioned, you all guys mentioned trust. So in 40 seconds is the following. We have talked about digital transformation, but you guys have said that, I mean, Martin said it's not about digital transformation, it's actually solving problems. So you solve problems through radical innovation. The moment, and then I'm going with what Nuno said, the moment that you tell the business, this is what we're doing, and why we are doing this and how we are doing this. And this is the business that we're solving in a radical, innovative, different way. Then you are, and then finishing with Felipe, then earning the trust. Trust, ladies and gentlemen, is subjective in nature. Trust, you are not trustable because you say so. You are trustable because others say so. You are trustable, you deserve the trust of people, you know? I mean, except family, you deserve the trust of your partner, your friends, your colleagues, your teammates in football or tennis or basketball or paddle, you know? So meaning when you combine radical innovation, not just digital transformation, trust, solving problems, I think that combination is absolutely instrumental. So earning, deserving the trust of people through radical innovation, solving problems. I think that's the name of the game. And those were my, not 45 seconds, but probably 1 minute, but that's what I wanted to say. Back to you, Antonio, and thanks everyone.
Ramses, it was a pleasure. Everybody, it was a great final round table. I would like much to thank you for your availability, for your participation. You made my life very easy, okay, and I thank you for that. The only thing that is missing is the beer, okay, so that we could cheer. But I would close up and pass to Mário Rui. It's amazing that we are in a IT service management plus a service management forum, and we have ended up and closed this round table with the following statements that we need to address on the stakeholder journey: ethics, honesty, active listening, adapt the language. What value are we expecting to deliver? Expectations, communications, and trust linked to action. Okay, so we didn't talk too much about technology on this roundtable. We have just talked and resumed about people and about values. That's what service management is about on the end of the day. So thank you very much for being here with us. Mario is already prepared to close, and we'll keep in touch. Thank you very much, and keep safe. Above all, keep safe and happy, and we'll meet again for sure.
Thank you.
Mario.
Thank you.